Tale of the bird with the flaming feathers. Neither here nor there, but long ago. Oh, reader, hey, come closer. We are here to start a new vlog, and I'm gonna make it short because I want to continue this book because I've been reading this one for 2 months almost, like a month and a half, to give myself a little bit more of grace. But I need to finally get around to it and finally read this damn thing. Welcome to another video, reader. We are here to talk about Magical Readathon. This is the first half of a vlog because I'm going to do a vlog for this throughout the month of April, and normally I will have a vlog for the first 2 weeks of April and then one for the second half of the month. I am going to be pursuing a higher calling. My character is basically a secret assassin who has been taking on 2 callings up until this point, but she has graduated officially one of them, but she has taken enough classes to have unofficially graduated as the other as well. So officially she's a rift architect and so can open up rifts and portals in between worlds, which is very convenient for her calling, but also not all that like suspicious. But then she's also taken all the classes that she needs in order to be an illusionist rogue, which is definitely very convenient for her career. Now that she's got her calling, now that she has managed to graduate, the question remains what comes next, what to do now. She can stay at Aurelian Academy and try to pursue her assassination role here because she's got a certain clientele at this point in time, she's got a reputation, she can get jobs going, but there's also the fear of this attracting more competition. And there are certain higher callings that appeal to her because they would lead to her traveling around more, but she's ended up thinking more towards the future, and so she's going to go become a spacetronaut and is going to explore the limits of space and what is beyond what we currently know. So this seems like a good career move. She can stay at Aurelian Academy for the time being, get like trained to become a spacetronaut, but there's also the potential to become the first assassin in outer space, and that does really appeal to my character. So I need to get my character through the spacetronaut training program, which basically means that what is available to me: books that have the word space in the title, books that have stars on the cover, sci-fis, and then anything that would count for 2 classes. I think they're called Artificery and Astronomy. Astronomy being top of your TBR, and arts, what did I say? I don't remember what the other one was that I said, but basically for that I need to reread. Now, my main priority is going to be the Ashfire King. It is both top of my TBR and it has stars on the cover because, as I indicated, I have been reading this since the middle of February, and you know, in the middle of February I put it a little bit to the side because I wanted to focus on books written by Black authors. In March it had to move aside for r/fantasy, and this book hit no prompts for that, and now it's like, this needs to happen, okay? This is my first focus for the month, and I am hoping that that is going to give me a big push through it because, not gonna lie, I am very excited about some of the books on that pile and so I'm very eager to get to that pile eventually. But so yeah, I am definitely not abandoning this book. This is going to be my first priority. I am going to be focusing my physical reading time on this particular book, and so I actually think that I'm going to come out and say it right here and right now: I cannot pick up another physical book until I've finished this one. So this goes against what I want to do because I really want to start spinning a wheel and figuring out what I need to read. But yeah, this is how we're going to do it, and it's probably going to be for the best. Now, I'm also reading an audiobook on the side. If you know me, then you know that I'm always listening to audiobooks on the commute, so I always have an audiobook going alongside a physical read. And so for this time I'm reading Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austin. This is a book about a lesbian autistic woman who basically, her sort of like hyper focus is space, I guess. She works at the space agency, and so she knows a lot of interesting facts about space, but it's basically mostly about how she navigates her autistic nature and relationships, and like the masks that she puts up towards other people and the difficulties that she has in dealing with what she refers to as her parasites. Now the sort of like weird aspect to this book is that she is definitely throughout the book constantly feeling as if somebody's watching her and as if somebody's actually like been in her apartment when, you know, she hasn't been there. So as if somebody's breaking in, and there's this sort of like feeling as if there's this bald guy in her past that she is seeing everywhere, because she seems to be like, she seems to have like a hyper emotional reaction to seeing bald white men, which makes me curious about what potentially has happened in her past. So she also doesn't really seem to be all that aware of why this is such a trigger for her. Perhaps there is some sort of a suppressed memory involved. But in any case, I'm enjoying that one. It is also going quite fast for me to get through that one. I probably am already at the halfway point at this point in time, because yesterday I was some 30-ish% into it and I just cycled to my physical therapy and back, so I did listen to some half an hour or so of it again at this point in time. And it is the beginning of April. I have just moved into a new position, so I'm now in an analyst role, so I'm solving people's problem basically. I'm very happy with the change and I'm very much looking forward to that. And we also, through our work, can buy certain things like in the beginning of April that we can kind of have like a tax-wise, we can have a little bit of an advantage when we buy it through that platform. And so I have a new phone and a new laptop as a consequence of that, which means that I used almost all of my budget for it. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. I've been meaning to get a new phone for years, but I had this issue with Hotmail and not having access to my account anymore that I have just solved, and so now I can move to a new phone that hopefully, you know, is supported, because my old phone wasn't supported anymore. It was not getting any updates anymore, and so my new phone should have updates until 2032, and hopefully also has a better camera, which I will be trying out one of these days. And then the laptop is just like, my old laptop was really definitely getting super slow, and I always had to wait like a few minutes before it would connect to the internet and things like that. So it also made sense that that was probably due a replacement, because at the very least it is 8 years old. It potentially is even older. But so yeah, brand new gear, brand new job. Brand new life? No. But I'm happy to tinkle around with these things now during the evening, but I do also just really want to get some reading done, because yesterday I went to a concert. A colleague of mine was playing the harp in a concert, and so I went to a concert. I had a great time at the concert, but it also meant that I had very little reading time. Like, it's not the end of the world, of course, compared to, you know, maintaining a little bit of your social life as well on the side. But because it was the 1st of April and so the start of Magical Readathon, it definitely did have sort of like that itch to get started on my April reading, and so it definitely felt like, oh, I'm starting my April reading with almost nothing done. But in the end I read quite a fair bit, because as I said, I read some 40% into Interesting Facts About Space, which I should look up, because apparently it's not that long then, I guess. It's just like, it's under 300 pages, I assume then, because I think it said yesterday that I read like 116 pages. Or maybe it is over 300 then, like, but just barely probably. But so, that ramble being over, I am going to continue on with the Ash Fire King now. I'm going to have some dinner first, and then I'm going to dive into this book and hopefully get a fair bit into it, because as I said, I am now committed to only reading this book until I have finished it, and only then will I spin the wheel. Yeah. I'm already kind of regretting it, because I am definitely looking forward to spinning the wheel and figuring out what I'm going to be reading next. But that is part of the joy. That is probably part of what will motivate me to go keep on turning the pages and go through this a little bit faster. I do definitely think that it's gonna be fine once I focus on it. I have not been making great progress with it, though I am like 130 pages into it already at this point in time. But it's just, I think it's just been always on the lowest priority at the time in which I was reading it. So so that I was just never making a whole ton of progress in it because it was just like a chapter here, a chapter there. On my holiday I did start reading it, and I did get through quite a fair bit. Like most of these 130 pages I will have read on that holiday, but then it just like immediately got swept to the side afterwards. So I think that I can have a decent pace with it again once I just make it my priority again. Reader, I already take it back. So I'm going to do it differently, okay? I'm not going to force myself to read The Ashfired King until I finish it, because I have like 400 pages to go still in this book. And currently I'm just really out of it because I haven't read in it in a very long time. So I just read some 20 pages in it, and I will admit somewhat of a struggle was to get back into the story. There are also reasons that keep it from being something that really engages me, and actually this reason just got heightened by a plotline that happened in this final few pages. So yeah, I am thinking that it is probably better for me to slowly ease my way back into it. So I think that over the next few days, so tomorrow is the start of a long weekend, and I think I read some 20 pages in it today. I'll read some 30 on Friday, some 40 on Saturday, some 50 on Sunday, and some 60 on Monday, and then we can see whatever pace we go at. And of course throughout the weekend, if I end up like getting engaged into the story again and wanting to go faster, reading more of it, then I can also change that, of course. But I think that that is going to be kind of my playbook for this book for the coming weekend, as a way to kind of really get myself back into the story and hopefully like get through a decent amount of pages. I will be somewhere in the 300 pages by the end of that, which will land me like in the beyond the midway point, which would be nice. But I am going to now do a spin because as I indicated, I have the possibility to read books that are top of my TBR for Magical Readathon, but top of the TBR can be interpreted in many ways, and I asked you guys over on the poll what you guys thought was the way that I had to kind of like see it, and you guys basically had different opinions about how I needed to interpret that, and I've decided that I am going to use those different methods as a spinner wheel. And I gotta admit, I took my new phone with me here for this, and now I'm like, but I actually don't know how to screen record on this phone yet.
One eternity later.
Okay, so I have a screen recorder over here that has all of the answers that you guys gave to the poll. It basically has 5 times the same answer on it, and then a few others are on there twice because of you guys voting for the same thing. So the thing that is in here 5 times, of course, is going to be the thing that is most likely to win. So you're not going to be able to see it on that small screen, but you can see it on the recording. And yeah, actually, physical. Let's get physical. So what that means is this is a short form for me saying it is the physical TBR, and it is from the top to the bottom, from the left to the right, from the front to the back, because there are also other books behind here, meaning that this top book is the first one we're gonna be picking up. And I did strategically shuffle some stuff around at the beginning of the month, not super strategically, but there are certain stuff that I moved a little bit further down because of them also fitting other prompts on that wheel, and me preferring to use them for other things, so that when I got to when that other thing was chosen, there would be more chance of that particular book actually being the one rather than another one. This will potentially make sense at some point. But okay, the first book that I'm going to be picking up, that I'm starting, well, not even, the first physical book that I'm starting for Magical Readathon is The Beheading Game by Rebecca Langman. This is a very new book on my TBR. I think I received it a week ago or maybe 2 weeks ago at this point in time. So it is very new and fresh. As you can probably tell from that cover, it is about Anne Boleyn, and what I really love is this cover with that back. amazing thought process, whoever came up with this. But so, let's talk about Beck. Disgraced, beheaded, and out for revenge. When Anne Boleyn wakes up after her execution, she finds she is not yet ready for death. She escapes the tower, sews her head back on, and sets out on a quest for vengeance. But Anne's path to justice will not run smoothly. Luckily for her, she will find help from a chance meeting with Alice, who offers her the possibility of a different future. So, looking forward to that. I've read a few books that have looked at the Anne Boleyn storyline. I don't actually remember what it is that I read not even that long ago. A few months ago I read a book, oh yeah, of course, Queen Bee by Juno Dawson. That was like a reimagining of Anne Boleyn and the death of Anne Boleyn, in which Anne Boleyn is a witch and basically sort of like a witch trial almost, the way that she is pursued. But so yes, another magical reinterpretation of the Anne Boleyn story, and it sounds like great fun actually, in my opinion, and it sounds like it's probably also going to be lesbian, that's my clue from that back blurb, and I'm absolutely hoping that that is correct. So yes, this is going to be the first book that I'm physically picking up from the beginning for Magical Readathon. I'm very much looking forward to it. I hope this doesn't take over from the Ashfire King, but on the other hand, like, if it does, you know, the only thing about that is just that I've let so many things take over from the Ashfire King that, you know, if I'm just gonna do the same in April and have everything be more engaging than the Ashfire King is, then maybe I should take lessons from that. Because up until this point, I've really just assumed that it's been a case of unhappy circumstances. I did not dislike my time with the Ashfire King while I was on holiday, and it just had to move aside for some other priorities after that. It has, unfortunately, as a consequence, suffered now, because now I'm no longer like in the story. I'm just like very much out of it and need to kind of find my setting in it again. But I don't really think that I really had an issue with the book. But of course, if I'm gonna be picking up new books, I'm always gonna be more interested in the new books rather than Ashfire King. Maybe I need to learn something from that. I am definitely certain that I can make the case that in the month of March, this wasn't happening. It was really just a case of me knowing that I had to get through so many things for r/fantasy, and I did try to continue reading Ashfire King in the beginning for that, but it was really just like becoming clear to me that I was not gonna make r/fantasy, and that like all of my efforts needed to be in that, and it really was the case. Like, I read something else, as in a audiobook, because audiobook wise I don't have access to all the r/fantasy things, for example, and I don't have access to the Ashfire King either. Otherwise this wouldn't have been a problem at all anymore, because I would have just listened to the audiobook for it and have finished it long ago. But aside from those audiobooks for my commute that sometimes did take over time outside of my commute, I have only read stuff for r/fantasy in March. So yeah, let's start this one now. I'm very eager to get started on it, to get a feel for it and for the writing style. Not read anything by this author before, I don't think so. So it is Easter Monday. I have a day off, which I'm using to my benefit. This weekend I'm like, let's do the Easter cleaning, let's say. I've been making a list yesterday of some things to do. Didn't get around to all of them, but at least I feel like I've been tackling some, and this room still looks like a mess, but I know how much of a mess it looked like just yesterday morning, so I'm already happy with that progress, for example. And then I tackled a little bit of my bedroom as well, a few things, and so I'm happy with the fact that I've been doing some stuff. Now today I am just doing smaller stuff, just like the laundry, the dishes, and like making sure that my e-bike battery is charged, because tomorrow I'm going to the other office and I'm going to go there by bike, which means 20 kilometers, so an hour there and an hour back. So I need an audiobook for that tomorrow, and I have just finished my first book for Magical Readathon. So my first book is an audiobook, and it is one with space in the title, which is Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austin. don't remember whether I already told you guys about what this book was about, but so basically this is a contemporary about a lesbian autistic woman who works at the space agency. She's very interested in facts about space. She loves listening to true crime, and I gotta say that I kind of struggled with her character for quite a big part of this book, because for quite a big part of this book it's like, you need therapy, and you know, she's not going to therapy, but because she has like a lot of paranoia that is definitely building a lot throughout this book, and she is definitely also having an irrational fear of bald men, and so there comes this sort of like suspicion on the side of us as a reader that perhaps something in her past has happened involving a bald man. Whenever she sees a bald man, she also smells smoke, so there appears to have been some sort of traumatic moment in her past that she has suppressed, and that is causing her to have these difficult times because she is avoiding of bald men, which for the most part of her life has not been an issue at all. But then throughout the pages of this book, she will get a new co-worker that she is supposed to be working together with to solve a problem, but he is bald, so she's trying to avoid him. There's some guy who is knocking on her door all the time, who is her neighbor, who is bald, and she is therefore avoiding him. And you know, she's just acting irrational a lot of the time throughout this book because of paranoia and avoidance, and it's not necessarily something that I enjoyed reading to that extent, but I do like enjoy it in the end. I enjoyed the reveal of like what this was all about and the conclusion of this novel, and I do enjoy what this book is mainly about, because this is basically an idea that I at one point had of like, if I'm gonna write a book, it is going to be about that. I do not write books, so don't like, so I'm happy that there is a book that does this, because I wasn't gonna write it, so glad that somebody else did. And that is about sort of like the vagueness of memory, and what if you are remembering things that what if like your imagination of what happens starts to blend with your actual memories, and you can no longer tell what was real from what you have imagined. Basically that's what is in part happening within this book. What I also thought was interesting is that she, as a young kid, was, like as a teenager, had a YouTube channel, but she no longer has access to this channel, so it's out there forever, and she cannot like unpublish these videos, so that's like a creator's nightmare. Imagine if like in 40 years time I'm like, I want to get rid of all these videos from my past because they're like, I'm ashamed of them at this point in time, and you cannot get rid of them anymore. Luckily my channel is so small that I don't even think that anybody would find these videos, so it wouldn't really be much of an issue, but still. But yes, I had a good time with this one. As I said, I had a lot of frustration with it, but that's not necessarily always a bad thing. It just means that I'm reacting strongly to a character's choices, but I do like how it all resolved around the ending, and yeah, I had a good time with it in the end. And then I'm also finally making some decent progress in the Ashfire King. So the yellow ribbon is where I am at the moment. The black bookmark is where I need to be at the end of the day, because as I said, I was going like reading 20, 30, 45, 50, 60 pages, and so today we're on to the 60 pages a day point in time. This is going to be the final day in which I do it like that, because as I said, tomorrow I'm going to the office. I need to listen to 2 hours of an audiobook, but when I get home I might not have time to fit in 70 pages of this book, and I don't have the audiobook for this one, because otherwise I would have switched to the audiobook long ago to help me with my sort of like focusing issues. But I'm really enjoying it at this point in time. I am once again into the story. This has really helped me get back into it in like a little bit of a more easy way of getting back into the story, not like pushing myself to get through 100 pages in one day as a way to get back into it, but just like gently easing myself back into it. And so I am having a good time with it. It is like not perfect, not ideal. I do definitely feel like there are quite some conveniences when it comes to the plot and to like the resolution of certain situations. There is very little known about the magic in this realm, and that makes for these conveniences, that makes that you can have these solutions to problems or to conflicts that feel a little bit sort of like easy ways out. But aside from that, I am enjoying myself. I love seeing this world, and I love the vibe of this book. But yeah, I'm definitely seeing a little bit more sort of like of its flaws now than when I originally read it. Or maybe when I originally read it I also saw these flaws, but over the years of waiting for this sequel, it has kind of built in my mind to be this book that I had an amazing time with, and now I'm just like, nah, okay, yeah, I'm enjoying it definitely, but it's also not a favorite or anything like that. But so yes, I am gonna be getting close to the 400 page mark, right? I mean more the 350 page mark out of a 520 or so page book. So we are still like far away from finishing it, but we're definitely way nearer to getting this one done. And so at this point in time, I'm confident it will be done in April. But so yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and continue that. On Saturday, I went to Ghent for a YA day from a bookstore chain that is popular here in Belgium. I had a good time. I met Charlotte, and I had a nice goodie bag with a lot of stuff in it. So I have a few like sampler chapters that I can also read at some point throughout the year, more likely, to see if those books could interest me. But there were also quite some nice goodies involved in there as well. And then in the afternoon, we went to a exhibit about like female painters from the 17th century, which I've been meaning to go to, and I'm very happy that I also finally went to that. I was going to go to the cinema today, and I feel like that is not going to happen. I feel like I'm not really in the mood to go to the cinema, because I'm more sort of in the mood to just like finish my chores right now and then just spend the rest of the day reading and just like watching gymnastics, because this weekend is the regional finals for NCAA gymnastics. I've been watching a lot of gymnastics since Thursday probably is when they were available on YouTube. I am nowhere near, I'm not even halfway through having watched all of them, because basically there are 3 sort of like pre-rounds that happened on Wednesday and Thursday in US time, and then the finals happened on Saturday, but that is in 4 different locations. So basically there are 4 2-hour-long videos for 4 locations, so 16 2-hour-long videos. So no, I'm nowhere near finishing all of those, and I'm not even halfway through. I am close to being halfway through. I just need one more video to be halfway through, to have watched everything from 2 locations. But yeah, that is definitely something that I am looking forward to completing next week, more likely. Maybe not even completing all of them, but next week there is not going to be a meet at all, so I do have time to catch up at that point in time. But so yes, it is also still fresh now, and you know, whenever I go on to Instagram, I'm running the risk of getting spoiled. So also the earlier I can get to watch these videos, the earlier I can kind of safely access Instagram again. So yeah, that is also part of the reason why I'm like rushing through it, just because I want to experience this without knowing the result ahead of time. And so that makes it easier if I'm just like catching up to them as quickly as possible. But so yeah, that is my progress thus far. So I guess I'll have to, maybe I'll put a bar on here or something at some point. I don't even know how to do that. With the page count, because there's a certain page count that I have to reach in the April sessions of Magical Readathon in order for me to be able to graduate from my higher calling. Let me immediately say that it is not my expectation to do that within this year at all. But we can kind of show some progress towards it, right? So with having finished Interesting Facts About Space, we are now at this stage of the progress. I'm not going to do it day by day, because that is just going to be a nightmare for my editing self. So we are definitely just doing it from you know, like when the book is completed. And I don't actually know what to do with Ashfire King for that, because I do have to use a scroll in order to count this one, because this one was started before the start of April. But does that mean that I then get to count the entire page count for it because of having used that scroll? Or do I still only count the page count that I have actually read in the month of April? I'll have to have a think on that. Maybe so there's an answer to this already on the Discord, but there's so many people on the Discord that that's always a little bit of a difficult place to go and look for answers, I feel like. But so yeah, we'll see. Alright guys, I have to admit I did not do a lot of reading since the last time I updated you guys, so I don't have much to update on, except that we are almost there with the Ashfire King. I have some 70 pages left to go at this point in time, but I am going to be interrupting this vlog for a weekend at this point in time, because Read It Short, my short books readathon that I do every 3 months, is happening this weekend, so I will have a separate vlog for that one in which I'll be reading short books. And even though I have only 70 pages left to go in it, this does not count. I might still read like 2 chapters this morning, 2 chapters tomorrow in the evening, to just keep on going away, like going through this particular book and then finishing it out on Monday, for example. But it's definitely not going to be my focus throughout this weekend. Now, I do definitely think that I'm just not enjoying this book as much as I enjoyed the first one, though I also didn't enjoy the first one as much when I reread it. So it's just not hitting the same sort of like buttons as it was hitting when I read it the first time 3 years ago. And so yeah, I'm just going through the motions. It's not like I'm actively disliking the book or like totally disinterested in the book, but I'm just not invested in this storyline, in the whole sort of like storyline of saving the Jinn world and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm going through the motions with it. I had hoped for there to be some character arc stuff that would really get me invested along the way, and that would kind of elevate my engagement with it, and unfortunately that hasn't really happened. And so even though certain things that I don't particularly like, that I'm always kind of struggling with in books, have now been resolved, I haven't felt that same sort of like rush of excitement after that happened, after that was resolved, which I typically tend to do in these situations. So yeah, it's just not working out as great as I hoped it would. At this point in time, I'm not entirely sure whether I'm going to finish out the trilogy or not, but it's definitely not going to be high priority. And when it comes to the beheading game, I don't think I've made any progress since I last spoke to you guys. So I'm like 15% in. I was super invested when I like last read in it, and I really had a great time with it at that point in time. I think I read like 9% in it, but like in like an hour or so at bedtime. But yeah, I am anticipating that I'm gonna get back to this and get through it much quicker, but I've just been prioritizing the Ashfire King over this one, as it rightfully deserves to finally be prioritized. And so hopefully I'll get through a little bit more pages when I finally get back to it and can give it my full attention, because I gotta admit, I was looking at this month as like a month in which I was gonna get much more reading done than currently has been the case. In the past work week, I haven't really been reading up to the 100 pages a day standard, starting on Wednesday, I think. And I've been very, very tired as well. I had headaches as well throughout those days, so that also, of course, didn't help out. But yeah, I'm just like, how are we like the 11th of April at this point in time, in the morning of course, and I've only finished 1 book so far. Like, what is this? Like, we're close, we're nearing the middle point of the month, and I haven't finished more than 1 book at this point in time. So yeah, hopefully we can still change the statistics, especially with Read It Short. But the books that I'm gonna read for Read It Short, I still have to decide whether they're actually gonna be books that fit the magical readathon theme, or whether I'm gonna stick to the non-fiction theme that I'd originally foreseen for it. So leaving you with that. Alright guys, I am back from my Read It Short adventures, so you can go and check out the Read It Short vlog if you want to know about the books that I finished during Read It Short, and sort of like my first experience, I guess, with a book that I'll talk about here. So I ended up reading The Subtle Art of Folding Space by John Chu, and then I also read Tiananmen 1989, which by Lun Zhang, which is a graphic novel, and then I started The Wax Child by Olga Raven, but that one I was not able to finish during Read It Short. So I read 2 books for the Magical Readathon during Read It Short, and then The Wax Child, which I wasn't able to finish, cannot count for Read It Short. But I'm here to talk about another book that I finished, because I finished The Ashfire King. Finally, I have finished this book, and I don't know what to say. I think I've talked enough about my feelings about this book. The ending for this book ended up being a last page cliffhanger, which I am not happy about, because I was just like, oh, okay, we're gonna end things like lightly, like, you know, like there's no full resolution because there's still a book to come, but at least, you know, we've resolved the main arc of this particular story, and, you know, things are a little bit calm in the way in which we end up this book. And then we have that last second cliffhanger, and I'm just like, don't make me wait 3 years to resolve that cliffhanger. But also, like, I was so little invested in this book, and then now I'm like, why are you giving me a cliffhanger that makes me want to read book 3, even when I've basically, like, not fully struggled with book 2, but I've also not vibed enough with it. So if this would have ended up being like a nice, like, chill type of ending, maybe I would have just ended up not continuing. Maybe I would have ended up not reading the 3rd book, and that could still happen, because who knows when this is published, and maybe at that point in time I won't have a big drive to reread the first 2 books in order to go into the 3rd one. But that cliffhanger might. But the good thing about that is that I always forget the ending of books, and even if they have the biggest cliffhangers possible, I will forget it. If you've read The Will of the Many and you know that cliffhanger, I forgot that cliffhanger, okay? So I'm capable of forgetting every cliffhanger. But so yeah, that's what I've been doing with my time yesterday. And then I also did still continue on in The Wax Child by Olga Raven, and got about halfway through. I just wasn't able to push through and finish it yesterday, and so I also don't think I'm going to be able to finish it today, because I mean, I have read today because on my commute I listened to like 60 pages of the Stardust Grail. Yeah, Stardust Grail, I think the name is. So I am close to finishing that one out. I probably will finish it out in 2 days time or something like that. And so that accounted for like 60 pages of a book already read today, because of the fact that I on Tuesdays go the long commute, and so I have like 2 hours of audiobook time on that day. But yeah, I still, like, it's still no page has been read since then. I haven't picked up a book since I got home, and I'm also not necessarily feeling like picking up a book all that much, so maybe I'll just allow myself to do that. But on the other hand, it's like 8:30 and I don't know what to do with my time otherwise. But I should actually edit my Read It Short vlog, so that's probably what I'm going to be doing now. But so yeah, I will talk to you guys about The Wax Child next time I talk to you guys. But let's first talk about the Stardust Grail, because I have to admit that it's kind of suffering from the fact that I'm listening to it. Because in the very beginning, like the first time that I started listening to it, I also listened to it on one of those days in which I had like a 2-hour commute, and I was very much following at that point in time. But then at some point I kind of lost a little bit more of my sort of like focusing power with it, and I lost some of the threads of the story. So some of those threads are not as tightly knit and tightly connected in my brain as they probably should be. I have enjoyed it regardless, and I am enjoying the writing style and all of that. But it's like I'm fully aware of the fact that I'm like, when it comes to not fully grasping certain things, it is all down to me, and to me not necessarily being the most like attentive to it all of the time, because, you know, I have an hour on the bicycle. During that hour of time that I'm listening to my audiobook, my mind will occasionally drift, and then this might happen at a moment in which it's a little bit inopportune to do so. Actually today, when I cycled back home, halfway through or something, I ended up putting myself to the side and like starting 2 chapters over, because I was like, I have not been following, and there's some emotional fallout here that I'm just not really following what happened and how we've gotten here. So I'm still enjoying it, but I could have enjoyed this a lot more probably if my brain power was with it 100% of the time. Guys, it is almost the end of, well, this vlog, because it is the 16th right now. I was actually gonna end the vlog yesterday evening, but I listened to like the end of my chapter and that was it. And so I think I'm about to finish my audiobook today somewhere, so it is probably going to make sense for me to finish the vlog after today. But so yeah, have I made progress in anything since the weekends? Really? Honestly, almost not. I have read a little bit further into The Wax Child, but I haven't been able to focus all that well on it neither. I have not been reading in The Beheading Game at all, even though my goal was to try and finish it before the half of the month. And then I've actually mainly just made progress then in The Stardust Grail by Yumi Kitase, which is the book that I will be finishing tonight. And I have enjoyed the few hours that I've listened to it since I last updated you about it. I definitely feel like I'm grasping the end section of this book a lot better, as in like I definitely feel like now my attention is fully on it, now I'm fully invested, engaged, and so yeah, I'm having a good time with that one definitely, and I'm definitely looking forward to trying out more of their work afterwards, because the covers for these books are always amazing, and I definitely have had my eye on other books by Yumi Kitase, such as like Salt Crop, I think it is called, and then there's another one that I also think I have on my want to read list, but I cannot think of the title right now. So I'll definitely read more by them at some point. But I have actually just found out that for my higher calling, that I got the concept of the higher calling completely wrong. Because I was just like, yeah, okay, you have these 3 prompts that you can take to fulfill your higher calling, and then you have those complementary classes. And because you can take those prompts like however many times you want to, my understanding had kind of been that that was also the case for the complementary classes, that you could take the like the artificery class 7 times if you wanted to, that they were just basically just like 2 other prompts that you could use indefinitely throughout the entire semester. And now it turns out you cannot. It makes sense, honestly speaking, because the idea is that these are like actual classes taking place, and it doesn't make sense that you take the same class like 7 times, of course. But yeah, my brain had not caught up to that at all. I had not even considered that. And so my whole plan for this month, and the whole reason why I chose the Space Astronaut higher calling, was that I could use TBR books for it. But basically, I can only use 1. And basically, I've already done so by logging Tiananmen 1989. Now I might want to change the book that I'm going to count for that, but actually not. I think what I'm going to do is all the books that I have already started right now, I'm gonna log the way that I was planning to log them, which means that the Beheading Game will still count for top of the TBR, even though that will be the 2nd time that I'm taking that class. And that's actually the only one for which I have to make an exception, so I'm happy about that. In principle, the Stardust Thief was also top of the TBR, but I ended up like changing the criteria for it to stars on the cover, because it has stars on the cover, so it's actually already counted for 2 things. And so then I was like, oh, then I'll make it go for stars on the cover. Then I have something for that prompt as well, because my ideal, like my goal as well, is to have something for every single prompt, because then I can count this for the Herkiet readathon prompt as well. So yeah, I'm going to have to count, like I'm going to count the Beheading Game for top of the TBR, even though I've already logged the book for the artificery course. So this is cheating, but it's an honest mistake, so I think that that is okay to do. And then the 2nd half of the month we'll see. I don't feel like changing my plan because I'm super excited about the stuff that is on the top of that TBR and that I wanted to get to next. So I think I'm just gonna keep on doing what I've been doing for the first half of this month, and that is just going to be reading books off of that pile, reading them based off of the spinner wheel whenever I have the opportunity to do so, and then my audiobooks will be the books that are going to be counting for Magical Readathon, because those are going to be the ones for which I can use the stars on the cover, space in the title, or sci-fi prompts in order to select them. I don't actually even think I have a sci-fi on here that I could use. Maybe Operation Bounce House is a sci-fi, I'm not entirely sure of that. But aside from that, there is no sci-fi on here, so like I have nothing on my physical TBR. I did not choose Spacetronauts because of the sci-fi aspect of it. I chose it because of the top of the TBR prompt for it, because I was like, yeah, I actually have not, like, it's not like I don't have an interest in sci-fi, but sci-fi is not my main genre, so I guess I should have chosen one that has fantasy as its main genre, because that is what I read the most of. But yeah, I was very much looking at this combination of prompts, and that's how I ended up with Spacetronaut, being like, oh, that's actually gonna serve me best, and then I can just listen to sci-fi as my audiobooks to still keep like everything that I'm reading from Magical Readathon, but it's not gonna turn out that way. But don't be too like sad for me, because with the books that I've already finished so far this month, I have currently not yet broken any of those rules, and I'm at like 25%, I think 26.6% of the reading progress for my higher calling for the spring equinox. And so I might still get to like, I mean, with the book that I'm about to finish, I'm definitely still gonna get a little bit further as well. So if I just land in a third of the progress, for example, that's fine by me. I really have no sort of like ambition for finishing my higher calling in 1 or 2 years, for example. I was thinking like, oh, actually it's going to be something that I can do in 2 years, but maybe it will now become something that I do in 3 years, in 4 years, who cares. But yeah, it is a little bit disappointing, and it does make me a little bit less excited for my higher calling, and we'll see what we do with the autumn equinox, because yeah, I'll still have those same sci-fi problems then, and so we'll see whether I make it a dedicated sci-fi month. But honestly, I don't think I have enough sci-fi on my want to read list to really warrant that. It's not that I dislike sci-fi, I do occasionally dabble in sci-fi, but yeah, as I said, it's not my main genre, so the main thing I always want to be reading is fantasy, so yeah, we'll see. Hey guys, so it is already the weekend. It is the 17th of April, and so I'm not really going to talk about much of my progress in between, because I am still about to start another vlog for the second half of April. But yeah, just wanted to round off this vlog. Basically, the only other thing that really happened still on the 16th, so the cutoff day for this vlog, is that I finished the Stardust Grail by Yumi Kitase, and yeah, it definitely was, I think I've already said everything I needed to say about that book. And yeah, I enjoyed the conclusion for it. I was definitely much more aware of the conclusion, I think, than some of the other sections. I think the beginning and the end of this book really captured me, and then in the middle I occasionally just lost some of my focus with it, and that is mainly to do with the fact that I was mainly listening to it on my commute, and then I was like listening to it for 1 hour on the commute, and yeah, then it can of course happen that your mind kind of wanders occasionally, and if it happens too often, then I was just like, oh wait, I'm not really following anymore, what is this Stardust Grail? So I think the funniest thing about my reading experience with this is that the thing that is most unclear to me is what the Stardust Grail now actually was and what its role was. But I also liked how this story changed from an adventure story into a horror story towards the final end almost. And interestingly enough, also like when I still had like 20 minutes to listen to, I was really like, wait, is it over in 20 minutes? Like, we are in the middle of the action and we are supposed to like end this story in 20 minutes. It has no sequel to it. It is a standalone. But yeah, it did manage to round it off, but it's also the type of sort of like ending where it's just like quickly wrapped up, you know, like we don't need to go into a whole sort of like I don't know, cool down of the story where we go from high octane action sequences into a sort of like devaluation of the story and like, okay, let's wrap things up. It's kind of quickly resolved itself towards that ending. But so yeah, I've enjoyed it. As I said, my mind was not always with it as much as it should have been in order for me to fully understand every single detail of it, but I did definitely still enjoy it. I also enjoyed its sort of like discussions throughout of its nuanced portrayal of different species and of the histories that we all carry with us. And just because one particular race, for example in this case, is currently in a victim role, that does not mean that they might not have also on their end been the predators or the aggressors in past conflicts between species, in past conflicts where they might have actually been, you know, the bad guy. So showing that, you know, like we're all flawed in the end and there is no sort of like clear benefit to you know, like dividing people in like victims and aggressors and stuff like that. We all have our nuanced, messy histories. That doesn't mean that they should necessarily, that they should like impact our current decisions. It isn't because somebody might have been an aggressor in the past that they are less of a victim in a current situation, for example. So that is my whole sort of like thoughts about this book. At the 16th, I was this far into my progress for Magical Readathon. I have since also figured out that I can actually count the full length of the Ashfire King, which means that I'm currently a third of the way into my higher calling progress for the month of April. I don't necessarily know whether I'm gonna make a lot of progress in the second part of this month's vlog, because as I think I already discussed with you guys, we're gonna have to change our strategy in principle, and I'm not going to do that. So I'm gonna stick to my original strategy, which means that I'll only have a few books that I can actually count for Magical Readathon, I think, but that is also fine. I don't necessarily have any sort of like big goals about in how many years time I want to be completing Magical Readathon, and I think for me personally, I just have a higher priority that I want to place on my TBR books this month rather than on taking part in Magical Readathon, and so yeah, I think maybe this is sort of like a little bit of a lackluster feeling that I have about the higher callings. I don't necessarily mind the system. I do like the fact that you have more sort of like freedom in the fact that, you know, you just need to get to a certain page count. You could in principle make everything you're reading count as long as you choose books according to the prompts, but I guess I wanted a little bit more of a range within the prompts then that you can choose from, because for example when it comes to the Spacetronaut, all three prompts kind of lend themselves ideally for sci-fi, and it's not to say that you cannot go outside of that. Definitely with the stars on the cover type of prompt you can go very far out of that, but it is also quite specific. There are definitely a lot of covers that have stars on the cover, but a lot of them are sci-fi or Christmas books and there are of course some. The Ashfire King for example is one, but it's also still like quite limiting and very much lends itself towards a certain genre, so that I would have just liked a little bit more of a mix of the certain prompts that are in there, and I felt that like with the 3 prompts for every higher calling, none of them like fully appealed to me. I was always looking to the complementary classes for like inspiration for what I actually wanted to read, because the actual sort of like prompts that are the standard prompts for your higher callings, I felt were always kind of steering very clearly towards one or another genre. But so yeah, that is going to be the conclusion of the first half of my April vlog, and yeah, see you guys for a future video. Bye!